What's up, guys? Artem MMA Analysis here, going to be announcing and talking about a fight that was most recently announced. Derrick Lewis versus Sergei Pavlovich. Today was a crazy day for announcements, but I feel like Derrick Lewis versus Sergei Pavlovich potentially is the biggest fight announced. It's also worth noting that this is going to be taking place on UFC 277 in New York. No doubt in my mind, this will have a main card spot. The same fight card as Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira. So we already know what the first two opening fights are going to be on that card. So that's absolutely insane. Derrick Lewis and Sergei Pavlovich. I feel like this is a great fight for Sergei Pavlovich. Not necessarily just the matchup, but I just love the fact that Sergei Pavlovich has been so active recently. He did fight 1 month ago, and now he's going to be fighting again in about 3 months' time or so, which I really do like to see, considering the fact that he did take about 2 years off. More than 2 years off between beating Maurice Green and beating Shamil Abdurakhimov. That was a lot of time off, but it's definitely worth noting that this is a big step up in competition. Yes, Derrick Lewis is an older guy for the heavyweight division. Yes, Derrick Lewis has lost 2 of his last 3 fights, but Derrick Lewis is still live for the KO. We saw that in the Chris Dalkaus fight, and that's another thing with Derrick Lewis. I like how he's been so active. I feel like now that he's got his big money contract, he's fighting so often to make that big money. But one thing that you can kind of has some cause for concern about with Derrick Lewis is he did get knocked out by Tai Tuivasa a couple of months ago. Potentially, like, the brain hasn't recovered fully. I know that when I played rugby, if you got concussed, you were sidelined for 6 weeks. But I mean, this is completely different, I guess. But yeah. Anyways, like Derrick Lewis, I mean, he's gonna have 5 months in between this fight and the KO loss. I feel like there's plenty of time to make the full recovery and move forward. But Derrick Lewis, as I said, though, he has been TKO'd twice in his last couple of fights, twice in the last year. Not necessarily the greatest look when you're fighting someone like Sergei Pavlovich, who did recently KO an older guy in Shamil Abdurakhimov. I don't really know who to pick for this fight, man. I like the fact that Sergei Pavlovich has been active recently. I feel like Sergei Pavlovich at this point in his career has the higher ceiling than Derrick Lewis. I don't necessarily see Derrick Lewis becoming a world champion one day. I don't know if I can see Sergei Pavlovich becoming a world champion one day either, but I feel like a win with Derrick Lewis would definitely kind of put him in the talks of the top 5 in the heavyweight division, and that's probably where he wants to put himself. For now, it's really hard for me to make a prediction on this fight because we all know how Derrick Lewis is. He does have very good stand-up. His ground game is interesting. It's like a just stand-up sort of ground game. Sergei Pavlovich, though, I feel like is a pretty well-rounded fighter, and he has definitely trained a lot in between those couple of years he had off. But his wins in the UFC are nowhere near as impressive as Derrick Lewis's, in my opinion. Yes, he beat Marcelo Golm. Yes, he's beaten Maurice Green. And yes, he did recently knock out Shamil Abdurakhimov. There's Shamil Abdurakhimov. And you know who knocked out Shamil Abdurakhimov before fighting Derrick Lewis? Chris Dalkaus, and he got knocked out in the first round. This is a close fight, man. It's also worth noting Sergei Pavlovich made his debut against the Reem. That's absolutely insanity, in my opinion. But yeah, this isn't the first time Derrick Lewis has been on a little bit of a losing streak. Like, he kind of has been in this sort of situation before when he lost to Daniel Cormier and Junior Dos Santos twice in a row by finish. But since then, he did kind of bounce back a little bit, made it to his interim title shot, and now he's a big name. Now everyone knows who Derrick Lewis is. I feel like for now, oh man, for now I don't know who to pick. I feel like I kind of want to side with Pavlovich just because he's the younger guy, but I'm so aware that Derrick Lewis could just knock him out in the first round, knock him out in the first minute, you know, like, this is not really a fight I feel like I can make a confident pick on. I feel like the fight doesn't go the distance, is probably pretty safe, but this is just such a good fight, man. I really can't wait to see Derrick Lewis versus Sergei Pavlovich. I feel like Derrick Lewis is going to be very live, and I feel like potentially we're going to see at one point Derrick Lewis be the underdog. Live underdog, in my opinion. Either of these guys will be live underdogs in this fight. I'm very interested to know what the odds are. There's no odds as of me recording it, but I feel like the odds are going to be close. There's going to be a live underdog on either side. There's going to be arguments on either side on who's going to win. Great fight. I'm very happy it's been made. I'm very happy that Derrick Lewis has taken this fight as well, because it's kind of strange. Like, I feel like Derrick Lewis at this point would be looking for money fights, but now he is the big money. He is making big money himself. So I'm glad to see that Derrick Lewis has taken up-and-coming contenders such as Chris Dalkaus, Tai Tuivasa as well, but Tai Tuivasa was a big name, and then Cyril Gane was for the interim belt. So yeah, good for Sergei Pavlovich. Definitely a big opportunity for him. I probably will slightly side for him at the moment. Definitely going to be looking into more of the fights, but I just don't necessarily like the level of competition we've seen Sergei Pavlovich beat in the last few years. You know what I mean? Not the level of competition Derrick Lewis has been fighting and beating. I mean, Shamil Abdurakhimov's a great win, but that's Shamil Abdurakhimov. He's 40 years old. You know what I mean? Hard to make a call on that one. Maurice Green's not in the UFC anymore. I don't think Marcelo Golm's in the UFC anymore. Like, hey man, we'll see. We'll see, man.